Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Telling It Like It Is. My name is Jade Alberts, the founder of Pure Guidance. This is a live show. If you have any questions, ask away. We're starting this just a tad early today because Koleya is in Toronto doing some more blockchain, picking up more members, doing everything awesome, speaking at an event, and we're excited about that. So I only have one little housekeeping event to talk about, and it's the Pure Guidance Collectively Tangled Mental Wellness event for entrepreneurs. It's going to be Monday, May 15th in partnership with the University of Calgary Hunter Hub. Limited spots are available. Come on out there. It's our second event, and we have two more planned after this. So for more information, the link will be up in the comments section shortly. But let's talk. Koleya, how are you today?
Great, thanks. How are you?
I guess you're my first three-time guest.
Ooh. Third time's a charm.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, we talked about absolute combustion the first time, then we talked about the CBC the next time, and then again, obviously, we're breaking down the Alberta Technology Symposium and what's next in the world of blockchain for the Canadian Blockchain Consortium. So, you know what? Why don't we kick it off with you giving us a nice little recap on how you think the ATS went?
Yeah, for our third event, I'm really excited about how it went. The feedback was incredible. The first event that we did, I think it was back in 2018, and then we planned one for 2020, and then COVID hit. And when we did it last year, first event had a COVID. Oh my gosh, it was just we were oversold out. And then this year, we just really took all the learnings that we had from the previous few events that we hosted, and the content was incredible. I love the fact that we were really diverse in our panel topics this year. So we were talking about quantum computing, we were talking about machine learning, we were talking about bridging expansion borders and how Albertans can help get their products overseas to different markets. And we had topics on blockchain and financial payment services. So it was just a nice mix. Great people that were there. The gala on the first night was also the very first time we ever tried to host a gala. So that I really enjoyed the live music, the plated sit down dinner, the award side of it. It's kind of a big thank you to the ecosystem who support us so much. So just really happy that we were able to do that one. Not sure if that's one of the event styles that we're going to continue. Is probably should stick more into our blockchain wheelhouse, but it was really a great run for this style of event.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of it. I'm dived into that ecosystem myself, and I love it. And you know what I love the most about it is bringing in over 50 speakers, 50 innovators, 50 leaders of the Alberta ecosystem, and obviously the feedback that we get, that people can shake hands, network. It's a smaller event, so you're able to, actually have conversations with these people, and that makes a big difference when you have 330 tickets sold to an event.
I've always preferred the smaller one. For anyone who's been to the collisions, which amazing event, definitely amazing event, but when you're going and the purpose is networking and there's 10,000 people or events with 30,000 people, how do you figure out who to meet at these events? But when you have smaller, more intimate events that are geared towards executives, decision makers, influencers, everyone that you meet is someone that you could potentially do business with. I think when we did our study just from the last event, we had 86% of people say that they made 5+ business connections that they're able to move forward with. That is meaningful when you have an event. Where I have a hard time, it's just you tier the ticket prices and you're spending $3,000-$5,000 for access to an executive lounge that you have a 5% chance of an executive actually sitting in that lounge.
Yeah, it's so many first-time people that I met there that have never been to one of our events before, whether it be the Canadian Blockchain Summit or the Alberta Technology Symposium. And they were impressed, right? They were happy that they got the food, and they were happy that they networked. And I'm not gonna, I might be a little biased, on what a great event is. But I mean, again, I love networking. I love meeting new people. But also, the Grand is such a good host for this event.
Oh my gosh, I love the Grand. It's probably one of my favorite venues to host in. We're moving our blockchain summit to Toronto for this year and trying to find something kind of similar. the fact that it's like partially an art gallery, it's niche, it has that theater style seating, that beautiful brick wall. Like it's really just an amazing event venue, and the staff are amazing. Like compared to our summit where we hosted that one to the tech symposium, it's like you have AV covered, you have ushers, you have front of house staff, you have beverage service, like everything that you could want or need, and they are hands on making sure that your guests are taken care of. So.
No, absolutely. And the catering, and I want to give a quick shout out to Guru and his staff. They did a fantastic job at the event. If anybody wants any information on that, reach out. I mean, he just did a fantastic job, and at the gala, and the food was second to none. So again, I'm excited. I'm always, and I know right now we're in looks in Toronto. So if anybody listening here lives in Toronto and knows of a really nice facility downtown, kind of historic type place, please let us know. We're not too familiar with the Toronto area.
So I feel like it's like a second home at this point for as much as I need to be out here for work. But yeah, I'm not familiar with the event venues as well as I could be.
Yeah, and neither am I. I mean, every event I go to is at massive events there, whether it be collisions or other blockchain summits or whatever, and they're always at the convention center. Or that Rebel place is pretty cool, but I mean, it's just you need a lot of people there.
Yeah, for that to not look sparse.
Exactly. I mean, we could just maybe rent out the pool and just have a pool party. That would be all right. Oh, for sure. Well, no, and I mean, again, we had so many great, great sponsors of the event, from CED to NDAX. I'm going to miss them all. I don't need to name them all, but I mean, we'd like to thank everybody for making this a successful event, and now we're, onwards and upwards to our next one. So I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about what's next for the Canadian Blockchain Consortium. I mean, I boast about it. You and I obviously are dialed right in. We've got well over 80 members now. So why don't you kind of share, maybe the vision of the next, year of where you think we'll do and some of the events that we're going to host.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know like our big goal this year is 100 members, and we're well on our way to making it there. So that's exciting. And then one of the things that I really love is our cross-country tour, because I know that in the early years, we got a little bit of flack for the fact that we seem more of an Alberta-based organization. And as a national association, we want to make sure that we're giving love to every single province. So from British Columbia all the way through to Atlantic Canada, we have events that are being hosted in every single province this year. And I really like, because we're being very specific and strategic, like kind of like half day mini conferences dedicated to like cybersecurity in Atlantic Canada, or focusing on like financial services and payments in Toronto, or mining in Saskatchewan, mining in Quebec. So more industry specific geared events. I love the way that we're really supporting like a national ecosystem. I love the fact that, we're working stronger on our government relations, public relations strategies. We have more research and white papers that we're going to be delivering. So a lot more really great content, more education that we'll be building with our partners at NATE. I think the next year is going to be pretty incredible. The fact that, we're launching a captive insurance pool for crypto businesses, through the consortium as well. So we're able to offer even broader access to financial services to this industry. So I think it's going to be a pretty wild ride and pretty crazy busy over the next year.
No, not at all. Just a few events. I mean, one of the things that I think is cool is, I think as of June, we'll have hosted an event in every area in Canada. It's, once we get out to St. John's, and host one in the Maritimes, that really, kind of solidifies, we've been across this great country, and we're supporting the blockchains, ecosystem, and bringing them together and uniting them as one.
No, definitely. And then there's also Quebec in September, and then also the international trips that we're doing, because we really want to focus on showcasing Canada as at least one of the top 5 players in the space. One, I think that our regulators are really top in the world. Like, I understand that we don't have the best regulatory clarity at this time, but when you compare it to other jurisdictions, like things like FTX wouldn't have happened in Canada, right? So after we had like our big Quadriga scandal in like 2018, our regulators really honed in, paying attention to this industry. But what they've done best outside of many other jurisdictions is engaging with industry to be able to understand blockchain for financial services and work on developing out regulations that fit with industry, where we're seeing in the States, the SEC is basically just putting out guidance, doing enforcement acts, and they're not really engaging with their industry. So Canada, I think, is going to be one of the destinations that businesses want to come to be able to get regulatory clarity. So it'd be nice to see that kind of kicking in. We're working on trade missions to go down to like policy summits in Washington, engage with American regulators, American senators to learn kind of about what the landscape is there, bringing our Canadian government officials to have that kind of dialogue. We've done events in Bermuda. We're about to host an event in Miami as well. So really showcasing all of the Canadian companies that are within our organization, showcasing that Canada, you know, is going to become like a leader in that regulatory fintech space. So hopefully that brings more and more business to Canada.
No, absolutely. Well, let's talk about some of these benefits that, I mean, we're seeing more and more, people from, whether it be exchanges or companies in the States, coming to Canada, and their first reach out is to us. And I mean, obviously we have it. We've done a very good job. We're going to be doing a little bit of work with, federal and provincial governments moving forward here. So what are some of the benefits that, company XYZ would get from becoming a member with the Canadian Blockchain Consortium?
Well, usually like the first two kind of things that they're looking for when they join up with us, one is access to the network. Like we have an absolutely incredible network. I mean, between our 9 committees, there's probably over 75 volunteers. We're I think we're closer to 90 members at this point, gearing up to 100. And even if they're not within our membership base, we generally tend to know executives at these companies. So being able to access the network is huge for them, being a part of the ecosystem. Next, I would say like brand awareness. Right? Like if you want to build a business in this country, you need people to be aware of your brand. And JD did an amazing job getting the marketing messaging out there. We get our magazines out, we get our newsletters. We have all the speaking opportunities across the country. We support with we support other events and get them speaking positions there. So they get the business development that they need through network. They get the brand awareness that they need through marketing. And then we also, a lot of them, because they want to establish themselves in the country, want to work directly with regulators, want to work directly with government to make sure that we have like the best regulations that make the most sense. So consumer to be protected first and foremost, but making sure that innovation still has that opportunity to thrive. So supporting the lobbying efforts that we're doing as well to engage directly with government. So there's a lot of benefits that they get access to with being a part of our group, as well as like we give people like automatic sponsorship. So depending on the membership tier, they can be sponsors at our big tech symposium or our big blockchain summit or some of the smaller events that we have across country. We also do webinars. So they're able to like host educational events if they want. We will actually host events for members. We did that for one of the ones coming out from the States. They picked the date, they picked the topic, they picked the city. We got over 150 people out. They hosted a great dinner afterwards, and they were able to like expand their book of business by working with us there. So.
No, and it's such, and for any more information that anybody wants to know, it's the website is in the comments section. Just click on it, canadablockchain.ca. You'll definitely be able to learn more about that. And I think that's some of the great things that we do. And I mean, and again, my opinion as a guy who loves to network is think it's so important, whether it be for startups or anything in the world, is the introductions that we can make for people that want to join our organization. I mean, that's just, that warm introduction is just priceless.
Oh, absolutely. Like I was at a dinner last night, and one of our members was just like, what this has done for his own kind of like practice and his business and the opportunities that he's had and how it's dramatically expanded it just by getting access to our network has been invaluable for them. And we have a lot of companies that, coming in from overseas, like from Europe, from the States, that are all coming in going like, this is definitely one of the better opportunities that they've had, because we're a very active association where some people get membership and it's like, okay, all you really get is the fact that you can say that you're members. With us, it's like you're meeting with us every single month. You're getting updates from us like nonstop. We're making all the introductions that you need. So we really work to make sure that our members get like the best bang for their buck.
And even that being said, we're not a pay-to-play organization. I mean, we bring speakers in. If you have knowledge on a subject, we want to bring in the top end people, and you have access to our committees and anything else that we do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of the things that, like, out of the members that we have, like, I would say almost half the people that sit on our committees that support our organization or get speaking opportunities, like they're not members, and it's not a requirement. We're happy to work and support with companies from all sizes, regardless of whether we get paid or not.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, again, it's important. If you want to be inclusive, you have to allow everybody, and finances shouldn't exclude you from anything.
Yeah, that was actually one of the reasons why we developed out the consortium the way we did, because there were groups that existed like years ago, and the comments that we would hear from people are the fact that it was very pay to play. Like they wouldn't engage with you, they wouldn't give you any kind of platform to speak on if you weren't paying like quite high membership fees. And like the ecosystem is comprised of a lot of like smaller startups, and I think everyone, if you're building like a national ecosystem, you need everyone's opinion, everyone's voice. Everyone deserves a seat at the table regardless of their financial position.
No, I totally agree. And we've got a question here coming in from LinkedIn. And usually I don't ask specific questions. They're pretty general, but John, thanks for your question. And I'm going to ask it because we actually had a kind of a couple panels talking about this. So John asked, what's the intersection between blockchain and machine learning AI? How can we leverage these technologies most effectively in the space? Kind of a loaded question. You should have been at the Alberta Technology Symposium, John. And we will be posting these videos up on our YouTube page. They're loading right now. 14 hours of video take a long time to load, in Calgary anyway. But, we will have those up there, and I'll post them and I'll let you know. But I'll let you answer, Koleya.
So the question is basically, how do we utilize these technologies better?
Yeah, how do we utilize the technologies, between blockchain and machine learning and AI?
Well, I would say that like when it comes to technology integration, like a lot of times when people look at their businesses and they hear amazing buzzwords, they're like, oh, blockchain's doing this, AI is doing this, quantum's doing this, all these different things. When you're taking a look at, you need to look holistically. So where blockchain and machine learning might have a lot of value, also intersects with like Internet of Things, right? So at one point, I remember like 10 years ago, everything was a buzzword on IoT. Everyone was splashing IoT on their decks. The thing was they were collecting all this reams of data, right? So you're getting a mass amount of it, but what are you doing with that data? And where machine learning or AI comes in is like, how are you taking that data? How are you scrubbing that data? How are you cleaning that data? What is the value of the data that you're trying to collect? What's the ROI that you're hoping to achieve on that data? Because if you're using a blockchain, basically you're using a distributed ledger database, and you want something that's immutable, where you can either see the transaction record and history or see any changes that are made to it. But just throwing data onto a blockchain doesn't make a lot of sense. You need to understand what it's going to do for your business. Why would you want to utilize this technology? Most importantly, do you even need a blockchain, right? Are you looking at it from an enterprise perspective? So example would be like in agriculture, you can do birth to burger supply chain management, see every aspect of that value chain, from where that calf was sired, from what parents, to an immutable record of all its veterinary, everything from where it was fed, how it was finished, what vaccinations it might have had, where it was butchered, where it was sent, what store. So when you can scan a QR code and go, okay, I was eating Bessie, you know exactly what happened with that cow. So that for transparency purposes, people might want to have a better understanding of what they're eating, and you can use an immutable database for that. Would that require machine learning? Probably not. Kind of exactly what data points you're looking at putting in. But yeah, I think people just need to pay a lot of attention to the why they're trying to capture this data, what the value of a blockchain would do for them. A lot of people look at blockchain for financial services, and they're like, oh, I'd like to produce an NFT, or I'd like to create some form of a token, something that's or a stable coin. And even for that, I would urge companies to pay a little bit of attention as to like what the value of that is. Like you can create a gift card within your own ecosystem, and you wouldn't have to go through securities law to produce that particular gift card, where if you're doing an NFT, potentially you might be leaning into the security side of the space. So why would you look at that specifically? What value is that going to bring to your business? And would that require some IoT? Possibly. Would it require machine learning? Probably unlikely, right? But
Yeah.
I think technology is not looked at holistically these days. People kind of look at like a one-stop shop, and they think one technology might solve all their problems. But I mean, right now, if people are doing paper manual data entry, like Google Sheets is a bloody improvement at that point.
No, there's still nothing wrong with Excel. Like,
No, No, there's not. But I'm just saying, like, generally, when you're looking at blockchain, you're looking at multiple different counterparties to agree to a same set of data facts. If you're an individual, centralized, siloed business, do you really need a blockchain? Probably not. It's just like how you're currently managing your database. But if you need multiple different counterparties to share specific sets of data, that's where a blockchain has value, because then everyone can see the same set of data and agree to the same set of facts. You can have smart contracts that execute from pre-programmed business logic that allowed for settlement to come in quicker. Do you need AI for that? Probably not. Do you need IoT? Absolutely, because IoT is basically everything that's going to connect you to the internet. Right. But it's when you're having like mass amounts of data, or you're looking to expand your business, like robotics, AI, definitely need it. Do you need blockchain with robotics? Maybe not, but IoT for sure. So really just dependent.
Oh, I mean, it's an open-ended question, right? Thanks for the question, John, and I hope we answered it. And if not, you can reach out and ask, have any follow-ups, we'll get them online. But I want to kind of, dive back into what the Canadian blockchain, is doing. So let's talk a little bit about our main summit here, which is going to be October 11th and 12th in Toronto.
Yeah.
Location to be determined yet. We'll figure that out, but it's a save the date thing. What type of panel topics, and what do you think? What type of discussions are going to be had at this event?
Well, I think like some of the biggest topics in the space, and that is an ever evolving piece, but the Canadian Securities Administrators recently put out some guidance, and it also involves stablecoins, and I think stablecoins are a very impactful topic right now. You have ones that are algorithmic, which I don't think should be legally allowed to exist. You have ones that are backed one-to-one US dollars that are being treated as securities, which I also don't quite think makes the best sense. So definitely topics on stablecoins, topics on like regulation. We're welcoming the Premier of Bermuda to the event to kind of discuss, like, they now have, pretty solid regulatory clarity. Companies can come in. I think like Coinbase, Bittrex, they've gotten their licenses down there. Having that kind of conversation on what that landscape looked like, why they welcome that industry, how stringent are their regulations. Like FTX wouldn't have gotten approved in Bermuda, which was also really great to hear. So that having their regulators have those kind of conversations. We're going to have topics on like environmental social governance. I mean, a lot of people hear about this industry and for some reason think it's mining's going to boil the oceans and destroy the ozone. And having really realistic topics on how crypto mining is actually supporting the production of renewable energy, because they are the buyers that can come in first and be able to offset any subsidies that the government might offer to wind farms and solar farms and things like that. So talking about the governance side and the environmental side for mining to help debunk some of the bigger myths that are out there, and then getting into topics about like, so what exactly does the metaverse mean for your business? What is the future of tokenization? So it's going to be a really great conversation. It's going to tip in from everything from enterprise blockchain to environment, mining, fintech, DeFi.
Yeah, it's like, I'm excited. I mean, it's going to be, if it's, building on our, switching from kind of blockchain week to our summit last year, we're going to be able to build on this. And I'm excited that we're moving it around Canada. I think that's, that's something that is only going to make, our followers stronger and, give more people access to what we're doing across this great country.
No, absolutely. And Toronto has like a really amazing ecosystem here. So it's exciting to be able to host more events. And I love coming out here. Between Alberta and Toronto, I think we have like a pretty strong ecosystem. And then like what's happening in even BC, like they do a lot of work in NFT metaverse space, and then cyber out in Atlanta, Canada, mining in Quebec. So lots of good ecosystems to have here.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit here about what's next. I know we kind of talked about some of our events and things like that, and you dropped our captive insurance. But I mean, if you were to think about where would you see the Canadian blockchain in about a year? What would your vision for that be?
I would say the insurance business is fully up and running. I would say we're probably passing 125 members. we're a stood up trade association with, we're helping to shape policy. One of the things that I'm really excited that's an initiative that's coming through our organization is our Center of Excellence. So with our Center of Excellence, we're working with some really key regulators in Canada, across the country, with some major players in industry to support developing out that regulatory clarity and creating industry standards. So we've heard from regulators that, if the industry engages and rallies and is like, we want to help support developing out these standards, it helps to move this process along faster. We're working with the banks right now to develop out the quantitative data for what the business case is and helping them have a better understanding of like why this industry should get better access to banking and develop out industry standards with banks and industry and supporting of the Center of Excellence. We're working on standing up a cybersecurity committee so that we have standards on how industry can engage directly with law enforcement, from provincial law enforcement to the federal RCMP, engaging that with industry. So the intellectual property that the consortium is going to be coming up with over the next year to 18 months, in conjunction with regulators, government, law enforcement, and banking, I think is going to be kind of like a world's first. We haven't seen Center of Excellence like this pop up in other jurisdictions as of yet, and that's really going to feed into supporting the credibility that the consortium is going to be able to bring to this industry. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's going to we're going to be able to show a lot of progress in that over the next year, on top of being able to offer insurance as a service, and then of course continuing to grow our event base, our membership base, our network, and more trade missions to other parts of the world to really showcase the prominence that Canada and the credibility that Canada has to offer.
No, that Center of Excellence is going to be something amazing, and the people that we have involved already, and whether it be from the banks to the cybercrimes to CPS to so many of them, it's going to be a game changer.
No, it definitely will. And like, just from talking to the police force, it's like they want to learn how to engage with industry better. They want to show industry how they're going to be responsive, what they're going to do with that data. And I think that being able to bridge more of these relationships, because as the consortium, we've always acted as a neutral ground for everyone to come together and have these really impactful conversations, because that's one of the reasons why we don't offer exclusives to anybody within this, right? Because you can't be inclusive if you have exclusives. But when you have like every major exchange coming together, having conversations directly with regulators, I mean, that helps move things forward quicker, because they see that as an industry, we are like, we're synergy. We have a lot of synergy, right? We're able to come to the table and have these kind of conversations. You're not hearing a bunch of competitive rhetoric coming from each one of them. They're all like, we need to move forward as an industry together. We can only go far if we do it, as a team, versus trying to make it more of an independent sport. So I think that's also helping with the messaging to government and the industry.
No, and bringing everybody at the same table at the same time, having the right discussions, moving our industry forward in the right direction. That not from a down, a top down or a bottom up. It's all together, making sure that when the regulations do happen, and whether it be in mining or securities or anything, that those are open and honest conversations all together.
Absolutely, it's the only way to do it.
Yeah. Well, I know you have to run, and I know, it's been a great Whoa, gone. Well, that's okay. I can wrap things up. If she jumps back on, then so be it. We'll be good. But, she's coming back already. I thought I was actually going to be going to have to do the wrap up myself, but that's okay. We don't have to now.
I'm sorry, my internet just kicked me right out for a second.
Hey, that's a joy of live. You have to make decisions like that. I mean, that's why I love live.
Like, I'm not gone.
Oh my God, that's awesome. But I do. I mean, before we go, I mean, you're an entrepreneur, but I want to, with a very successful business, but I want to focus my last question here more on the digital assets side. So if you had one piece of advice for, an entrepreneur looking to get into, it's going to have to be general, because there's so many different aspects, whether it be NFTs or starting a security or an exchange or bringing a token for something. What would your advice be for someone starting off in that industry?
Work with a really amazing securities lawyer. I think that would be my initial go-to advice. If you're looking to do anything in the financial services space, do yourself a really big favor. And there's some amazing lawyers. I mean, we have like Matthew Burgoyne with Osler's, amazing. You have Melissa Smith and Jonathan Dahl and Julie Bogle with BLG. You have Wayne Logan with Miller Thompson. There's so many. Sam Gabber with Gowlings. Like, I mean, just look at our legal committee and anybody on there would be able to sit down with you for an hour. Just when people try and do NFTs, tokens, you want an exchange, anything like that, the first thing you want to do is understand what exactly is your path to market, because you're going to have to go through securities. You're going to have to register as a money service business potentially. You want to have at least a legal opinion if you're doing an NFT to know whether it's a securities or not. And then you want to take that legal opinion and vet it through the Securities Commission just to make sure you're fully on side. It is important for not only your own business, but for the credibility of the space that you do things above board and in the right method, because we've had enough in the industry with people trying to shill out a million tokens, and most of them are just like illegal securities. They shouldn't have any access to the market. And that just creates more of that negative context, and you will eventually get fined with the Securities Commission, and nobody wants to end up on their negative side. So realistically, start off with advice from a really phenomenal securities lawyer. If you're looking into enterprise blockchain, that's a completely different story. And there, reach out to us. We have a host of amazing companies that do development for any kind of blockchain, whether it be for environment, whether it be like for digital identity, if you're looking for database development, all kinds of things there. You don't have to tip into meeting with a lawyer unless you want to add a token to it. And that's when we'd also introduce you some really good law firms. So.
Oh, that's great advice, and I mean it's something that we follow on our own. When I'm introducing somebody, I'm making sure it's. And again, we do have so many great lawyers, and I mean that's what makes the Canadian Blockchain Consortium so good. We'll make sure that you meet the right people. You're not Googling, finding some schmuck on the internet that's going to rip you off, and all of a sudden you're out tens of thousands of dollars, and now you got to go back and actually find somebody that can do it. And again, I mean, I tagged Sam here. He wrote a great white paper on DAOs. So if you want access to that, he's published it on his LinkedIn page. And more importantly, if you want any information about the Canadian Blockchain Consortium, canadablockchain.ca, it's in the comment section. Reach out if you want to volunteer, you want to help, you think that you can contribute. We're more than happy to sit down and have a conversation with you. And Koleya, thank you so much for your time today. Keep up the great work that you're doing across Canada, and have fun in Toronto. I wish I was there.
Me too. Next trip. October.
Next trip. We got Miami, we got St. John, so we'll be moving around a little bit here in the next bit. But again, enjoy Toronto, and hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Wednesday, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.